Hey guys, this is Maxi from Maxi's Messer podcast, and Messer is a German word for knife. So, welcome to this episode. I'm here with Brendon Milleker from BM Knife and Tools. Hello, Brendon. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm very good as well. Thank you. So it's evening here in Germany, and I guess it's lunchtime in Canada.
Yeah, it's 12 o'clock right now, and the sun is shining right on my face. I sit in front of these giant windows in my bedroom right now, my day job, and so it might have a lot of sun on my face, but yes, it's lunchtime.
So this is you are in Canada right now, yeah, because you are from Canada. So is this a really cold winter? I know Canada only with bright snow everywhere.
It's been we've had a lot of very cold spells, a lot of minus 30, minus 40 weather, minus 40 Celsius weather. And not just the cold, but we've had way more snow than we normally get as well. Last Monday, I was going to pick up my daughter from dance, and I couldn't, and the dance studio is in the same town that I live in, and I could barely make it over to the dance studio. There was a blizzard, you barely see driving. It was insane. So we've had a few of those this year already, and which isn't really normal. So it's really interesting. We've had a harsh winter, lots of very cold. So
this is incredible. We only have rain over here. I'm always wearing some rain boots, but no snow at all. So please correct me if I'm wrong. You are a Canadian knife maker. You are 36 years old, father of two. And you recently launched your first production run of one of your custom knife designs. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. I have two kids, a little boy and a daughter who's 6 and the little boy is 3. I just launched the Field Spec series. It was something that came to fruition over the 2021. I always wanted to do something like that. But of course, there's the risk associated with talking to an OEM and then doing a larger order of knives and whether they sell or not. And so I always wanted to do that, always the idea to do it, but the risk was there. And I tried taking a few steps to mitigate that risk. And I surveyed my customers, sent out surveys and posted it on Instagram. And the general consensus was to go ahead with it. So I went ahead with it and opened up pre-orders, and I was lucky enough that the pre-orders were actually enough to fund the order. So the 300-piece run, and the knives came in, and they were beyond my satisfaction, to be honest. The prototype I had was really good, and then the knives themselves, when I received all of them, were even better, which was awesome.
Oh, that must be an awesome. Yeah, I mean, you if you held your baby in your hands and you made, I mean, it's 300 babies, sure.
My wife was in, so I received 2 boxes first of the knives, and I brought them up to my room and opened them, or to my room, and then my wife walked in, and it was honestly better than Christmas for me. Because seeing it come to fruition and seeing how good they turned out, because there is that risk associated working with an OEM that you've never worked with before, taking that risk, taking the financial risk, it's just amazing knowing that everything is going to be okay and people are going to be very happy with the product, which is awesome. Yeah, it was Christmas for me.
Yeah, I think so. I can imagine. So it was Bestech who made the knives, right?
Yeah.
And why have you decided to go with Bestech?
So I approached a few different OEMs before deciding with Bestech. Bestech was willing to work with me on the 300-piece run. 300 pieces was the minimum. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but Bestech, they communicated so well and were very supportive from early on. They were willing to work the pricing and things like that for me, which was awesome. They seem to be very supportive of smaller makers that are coming up, and I've owned a few of their pieces before, some of the folders, and the quality was always really good as well. And then after I received the sample that I had to make of the EDC1 clip point, the Bowie blade, I realized that, yeah, they're perfect to go with. They know how to do it. The only question that I really had was on timelines, whether they could make the timelines at that point, and they met the timeline. So yeah, Best Tech, I'll be working with them in the future. Over the holidays, we've been talking about what my plans are for the future, and they were the ones that reached out to me, and they've just been a joy to work with.
So there are plans for the future. Can you talk about it, or is it still a secret?
No, I can talk about it. So there's a couple of ways that I can go, and I'm running out of stock of the field spec, so I'd like to do another run of those for sure. I just have inventory for people like yourself wanting to import them, and then to sell them out of my own store as well. The idea behind the field spec series was to always have stock available for people that want to buy a knife. With my customs, I can't keep that demand, or I can't keep the demand fulfilled with knives. So that's really the field spec, why I wanted to have it, something always available. So I want to do another order of those. And then I want to get them to start looking at the Ember V2, or later on this year, come up with a folder. So for a long time, I've wanted to do a folder, but I want to prototype it in my shop first and make sure that I'm happy with it, carry it for a couple of months, and then potentially approach Best Tech with it. So we'll see where the end of this year takes me, but for sure I'll be working with them again, and there will be something else coming up. Yeah, they've been very good to work with.
I would say I love the EDC1. It's the first custom you run to the production. I love the Bowie blade on that. It's my absolutely favorite. But the Ember 2 is the second one.
Yeah, the Ember was a knife I designed a couple of years ago. And sort of the V1 of it was what I designed a couple of years ago. And then later on, after I had made a few of them, there's something off to me about the proportions of it, the blade width or the blade length versus the handle. So I added in a second choil with the V2, and it kind of made the proportions to my eyes make a lot more sense. And then it actually made the ergonomics of the knife when you're choking up and using that second finger choil. It makes a big difference when using it for cutting tasks and making finer cuts with it. So it's a model that's gaining in popularity, and more people are asking me about it, which is awesome to see.
It is, yeah. And it's also awesome to see how your, if you guys want to check out Brendon's Instagram, it's BM Knife and Tool. And it's awesome to see your designing progress. From you have just said a couple of years ago, you designed the Ember version 1, and the same you can see with the EDC1. It's there's a progress. It's awesome. It's a great design, and you did it better from year to year.
Yeah, as I get better as a craftsman doing this, my designs become more refined as well. What I like becomes more refined, and what I can do, what my limitations are, they grow, but they also become more refined. So that the EDC1 specifically, I started making knives about 5 years ago in 2017. And the EDC1 was really my first model that I created. And I have the knife that the EDC1 was really based off of here. So early on in my knife making, I designed about 15 different pocketable fixed blades because I really wanted to carry one myself. That's really why I made my first knife, to fulfill a need that I had. So I designed about 15 pocketable, carryable, smaller knives, and then ended up making this here. So this was the first knife I made. It's a little bit, well, of course, it's crude. It's the first one, but I made it out of '01 tool steel, full flat grind on it, and then some natural linen micarta, and then some brass pins. So this was really the inception of what the EDC1 was, and then through the years and through me building many of them, I've refined what it is as a model and added some different things to make it more user-friendly and make the experience better for the end user. And that's what you see today, is that EDC1 model. And not just the handle and things like that, but now there's 5 blade shapes, which at the time, there was just the drop point. Now there's boy, the sheep's foot, the Warncliffe, and the Tanto. So the EDC1 range is grown so much, and I honestly, 5 years ago, making this first one, I could have never imagined it being where it's at today. So it's really cool to know that there's a production run of it now, which is awesome, and just the reception of it is really cool.
So the EDC1 is also a remarkable design. You recognize it every time. It's your design, and you can. I mean, a fixed knife. It's not for me, but it's maybe easy to build, but to create a remarkable design, it's not easy at all.
No, and I have to thank honestly the customers and the fans of the EDC1 for making it recognizable. And to be honest, for a while, years ago, I had got tired of making them, and that's all I was really making, because at the time when I had order books, that's all people wanted, and I just kind of got tired. And then I wanted to boost the sort of the recognition of models like the Ember or the Hunter and things like that. But I always came back to the EDC1, and because people wanted it, people were able to carry it really easily. And I have to thank the fans for it becoming recognizable and it defining my design style.
So you designed your knives in the first place for carrying it every day. So what makes a fixed knife for you a perfect knife or a good knife?
So it depends on the application, but if for the case of the EDC1, if you want to be able to carry it every day, to me it's got to be slimmer, because if you're having it on your hip, you want it to kind of be covered by your shirt a little bit. If you're putting it in your pocket, you don't want something bulging out or being really thick. You don't want the scales to be super thick. So you want it slender. You want the handle profile slender, and you want a good pocket sheath as well. And so on the field specs, the field spec sheaths are different than the custom sheaths I do. For the custom sheaths, I do make a taco style sheath where it's a single piece of Kydex folded. And then on the field spec, for this, yes, exactly. So for the field spec, the first run of these, they were pancake style. So a little bit thicker Kydex, but you can still pocket carry them if you put the right clip on them. And then hip carry with the field spec or with the handmade customs is an available option as well. So slim, lightweight, something that can easily come out of the sheath and be used and put back, because you're really rivaling the carryability of folders when you're carrying a fixed blade as an EDC knife. So it has to be as easy, and it's not easy to do. And that's something I'm actually going to be focusing on this year too, is looking at how people are using the knives and experience them and carry them, and trying to make some changes and make it a better experience for them. So hopefully I can make some progress on that, and whether that is finding new clips or coming up with new clips or new ways of doing Kydex or something like that. It's something that carryability, it has to be there. Otherwise, the knife is not really usable at all.
Oh, that's a good phrase.
Yeah.
That's good. I also think it's the perfect size on not the slim. Yes, the slim one as well, but it's a perfect size for small hands and even bigger hands. You can put a lanyard on it. Same on the field specs. If you need more space, and it's 7 centimeters. The whole length, and it's 7.5 centimeters for the blade. So that's two perfect sizes for fixed blades.
Yeah, a lot of people do add lanyards to it. I think fixed blades look amazing with lanyards, and they're also very practical too. Some of my customers have very large hands, and they can only sort of 3-finger grip the handle on the EDC one. My hands, I think, are small, and I can get 4 fingers on there fine. But for people that can only get 3 or don't want to choke up to the end there, having that lanyard is a great option. And if you're pocket carrying, having the lanyard allows you to pull it out of the sheath a little bit easier too, which is a nice option.
It is, and you can put a bead on it.
Yes, yeah.
So it comes.
You can fancy it up, and and there's so many great bead makers out there too. And you guys carry combat beads, and Keith is a buddy in Canada, and he's doing amazing work. Do
you know each other and in person?
Yes.
Really?
He not in person, but just through Instagram, and we've talked quite a few times. He's a few provinces over, so like probably 20-25 hours away. It's not. We can't necessarily drive to each other, but we do know each other through Instagram, and he's great. He's doing amazing things.
Yes, you guys should meet.
Yeah,
sometimes. Yeah.
So he's doing really cool things, and who knows? Maybe in the future we can have a collaboration or something like that. There's a lot of great makers in Canada that it'd be fun to do collabs with.
So are there knife shows in Canada? I never heard of one, but I mean it's a huge country.
Yeah, I mean, where I live, there's smaller shows and things like that. I've never participated in them. To be honest, a lot of my sales come from the US. They come from Europe, and I probably sell maybe 5% of my knives to people in Canada. So,
oh, really?
It's a very small amount staying in Canada. I'm not sure why that is, because we do have a large hunting industry here. We have a large fishing industry. A lot of people carry knives. I'm not sure why that is, but I've just found a following outside of Canada, I guess, and that's primarily who are buying my stuff.
Oh, see.
Yeah.
So that's so Canada is not a huge knife community. Can you say it? Not like.
So there's pockets, just like how Instagram has really niche communities. There's pockets within Canada that have very niche communities, and the communities that are within Canada are the diehards too. I'm part of some Facebook groups that are within Canada, and the people's collections and things like that. They just huge. So but then outside of that, there's not really just normal people, in my opinion, at least, regular people just carrying a knife or things like that. So there's definitely niche communities within Canada, though.
Yeah. I know some Canadian knife guys. Stephen, for example, the Stephen who's running the Giant Mouse Facebook group, the Shank Sharpness Union. He's from Canada as well, and nice. There are some. But I mean, you are probably living in 20-25 hours away from each other, so.
Yeah, where I'm at, I know some larger centers, they do have get-togethers and things like that where they'll bring their collections out, and then you can handle each other's knives and stuff like that. But at least where I'm at, I don't get a lot of that. I think there's one knife store, one knife dealer in sort of I live in a town outside of a larger city, and within that larger city, there's one knife store. So they do carry some popular things, but they still miss out on, like, they don't carry giant mouse. There's a lot of things that they don't carry. So,
yeah. So how comes that you came into knives?
That's a great question. From when I was a little kid, I've always had this fascination about them. I remember receiving my first knife from one of my aunts for Christmas one year, and from that time, I've always.
Do you remember that knife?
I don't remember the name, but it was like a buck 110 folder, something like that. It wasn't a buck. I can't remember the brand name, but it would have been like that, like something like that, a lockback. I unfortunately don't have that knife anymore either. I'm not even sure what happened to it. I'm sure my parents took it away or something like that, because I think I received it when I was quite young. But from that time, I've always been into them. And later on in my life, I got more into them again. So I kind of left them, I guess, or stopped thinking about them. And then later on, when I was about 20, 21, got into buying them again. And I think the first knife I bought when I was around the 20s was like the Kershaw Chive, which is a small, just little Canadian design assisted flipper. I bought it from a local place here. And then I went down a rabbit hole of going to Spyderco and then going to CRK and Hinderer and just Emerson. And it doesn't stop, right? So, and then getting into knife making, I've always enjoyed doing things with my hands. I've always made things in the past. So getting into knife making was just kind of a natural progression, and it was just really a matter of timing. So my wife and I, we moved while our new house was being built. So I wasn't able to start making knives or anything like that. And then we had my daughter, that took up a lot of my time. And then when she was older, when she got to be about 2 or 3, I started to have more time again at nights and things like that. So I picked up some equipment. I bought a 1x30 belt sander and started making some scales for knives of my own. So I was big into Emerson at the time and made scales for the A100, a bunch of other Emersons that I owned. And then some of the Hinderers, I would make the scales. And so that was a lot of fun. And then I started seeing more videos on YouTube about how to heat treat knives and things like that. And I thought it was something I could do and tried it out. And I designed the 15 knives or however many I designed, and or the 15 different shapes, kind of what I talked about at the beginning, and then came up with that first one there. And from that time, so because I was in the knife community already, I had some friends in it, so I made my second knife, and it looked much more fine than this one. And a buddy bought it. A friend of mine from Instagram bought it. So the second knife I sold, and from that time, I've been making. And to be honest, though, I had never thought it would ever get to this point. It's amazing to be able to make these and have people want them. It's just very cool. I'd be making them anyways, but it's just a bonus that I'm able to sell what I make at this point. So it's very cool.
And have you ever thought about, so now you are not a full-time knife maker, but have you ever thought about to switch into a full-time job?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, I'm not full-time right now. My day job, I work for a Crown Corporation, a federal financer in Canada here. So right now the balance is nice. So being able to do the day job and then work in the shop at night, the balance is nice. I don't get burnt out from being in the shop, and I don't get burnt out from the day job right now. But I kind of have thought about maybe in 4 or 5 years, I might be at a place with the knife making that I'll feel more comfortable going full time. And if I have a mix of, say, the production runs of knives, and then being able to prototype and do more R&D and still doing customs and things like that, but doing less of those and more focusing on larger production because I'd have more of a following, I could for sure see myself going full time in about 4 or 5 years. It really depends when it would happen, but if things continue to go well, it could be sooner than that, right? So we'll see. Yeah, I definitely have thought about it, and I just have to make sure that I'm comfortable. And it's a big risk. I mean, I have a family and bills to pay and everything like that. So I got to make sure that those are all taken care of, and just a lot to evaluate. And but things are going well now, and I'm just happy that how things have gone so far. So if this is where things stayed, I'd have no regrets either. So it's very cool.
But right now you are enjoying the balance between your daytime job. It's not a hand skilled job, and
no.
Your free time is then your second job is a very crafty one.
Yeah, exactly. I actually really enjoy my daytime job as well. So I have a background in software engineering and software development, which has led me into working in an innovation lab at this federal financer. The company is Farm Credit Canada, and I'm an innovation specialist there. And my background is in software development and software engineering. So completely different. Aside from making things, in that respect, they're the same. When I was a software engineer, I was making things. Knife making, it of course, is making things. So in that respect, they're just two different mediums. But the balance is very nice, and being able to leave the day job and not think about it at night because I'm focusing on the knife making, I think it has a lot of benefit. And it hasn't always been like that. Before I was at FCC, I worked as a developer, as an engineer, and I for sure got burnt out from putting in more hours than I should have been. So the balance is very nice right now.
And I'm not sure about what an innovation specialist is doing, but is this a creative job? Are you creative in both of jobs, or is this just creating things, making things others create?
Yeah, it's definitely, I have a lot of ambiguity, so I have a lot of freedom in the role I'm at my day job. If I want to be creative, I can be creative, which is really nice. So my job is really looking to the future and identifying trends and things like that could impact the financial industry and the agriculture industry within Canada, and sharing that information throughout FCC. So in the Innovation Lab, we run experiments, we do research, and then we share that with different stakeholders at FCC. That's a short story of what the day job is, but it can be creative because we're doing experimentation and different things like that. And because I do have a development background, I'm able to continue to do some development if I want. But I can pick and choose, I guess, which is nice.
It's really nice. Yeah, you have a family and your day job and your second job. So yes. How many knives are you making a year? So
last year I had sort of a grid in my shop. I wanted to make 100 handmade knives in 2021. I did not accomplish that. I think I got to about 85. And I had 22 others started, but just I didn't complete them in the year, so I didn't count them. But I got pretty close to making about 100. Time is very precious. I have to prioritize time really well. I'm in the shop most nights doing something. So it takes a lot of time, but it's very rewarding and very, very fun still. So I try and shoot for about 100 a year, but I haven't really been able to hit that number yet. So hopefully this year, maybe.
So you are working at night in your shop, right? Did I get it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So day job.
Short night for you.
Yeah, I don't get all the
sleeping part. I mean.
Yeah. So day job and then family time, get the kids to sleep, some time with the wife, and then go into the shop for a few hours, 4 or 5 hours or whatever I'm doing that night, and then go to sleep about 1 o'clock and up at like 6:30. The kids don't let me sleep, so they get me up and up early. But you get used to it, and the time you put in, it's been worthwhile. It's been rewarding, so it's easy for me to put in that time. And if I am a little bit tired the next day or whatever it is, the benefit is there for me. So, and it's not impacting the day job or anything like that. So, I think I'm one of those people that can survive off of the 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night and be okay. So I'm fortunate that way, which is nice.
So your shop is close to your house, or do you need to travel? Do you need to ride by car?
No.
Or is it just a...
Yeah, my shop, I have a 3-car garage attached to my house. So one of those sort of bays, I guess, I've set up a wall to keep dust and everything out and keep my shop separate from the rest. And it's about, I have 12 and a half foot ceilings, and it's about a 12 by 16 foot area that I can work in. I don't know what the square footage would be off of that, but it's a decent size. Of course, it can be bigger. You always want more room, but I've been able to make it work. And in the future, I'll end up finding another place, a dedicated shop, or buying some land around here and building a dedicated shop. But right now, it's perfect. And it's very nice working at home, being able to just get out there after the kids are sleeping and go put in the time. And it's nice. No driving or anything like that.
I'm not used to square foot, but it sounds really big for me. I'm guessing, yeah. I'm guessing it's like it's bigger than the most shops here in Germany. From a friend of me, it's Heidi Blacksmith. I'm sure you know him.
Yes, yeah. I've enjoyed his work for a long time. We're actually going to be doing a trade. So he's going to build a custom for me, and I'm going to build a custom for him, which is really cool. It's really nice that we've been able to connect that way and do a trade. So yeah, I've seen a lot of other shops, and some of them are small, and it's amazing the work that they're putting out. And so, I mean, you don't need a big shop or the fanciest tools to be putting out amazing work. There's some amazing art knife makers that are putting out incredible work, and then all they're using are hand files and the odd power tool. So it's very cool to see. You don't need a lot to make amazing work.
That's definitely right. That's a good tip for all the young knife makers around there. You don't need a lot of space. You don't need the expensive machines, just a few.
Yeah, the expensive machines come in to play when you want to get more efficient. You can go slow and do amazing things, but if you want to be making at scale, I think you do need to invest in some of the equipment that can help you do that. And if you don't want to scale, if you want to continue to be a smaller batch and things like that, and that's fine too. If you have the following where you can be charging a certain amount of money for a single knife, then that's amazing, and all the power to those people. There's nothing wrong with that. So you can go on YouTube and search knife making and see how you can make knives out of not a lot of tools, which is really cool.
I have seen some of your customs have different grinds. You can offer hologrinds, chisel grind. That's a lot of things. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, grinding the bevels on a knife is easily the hardest aspect of making handmade knives. I think if you ask any knife maker, that's what they'll say. It takes longest. You have to be the most precise about that part. Geometry comes into play so much. You can't be burning the steel as you're grinding the bevels on it. There's just a lot of things that you need to pay attention to, and in order to get nice grind lines as well, you need to know what you're doing and have even plunges, and there's just a lot of things to pay attention to when you're hand grinding knives. And yeah, I do offer Scandi grinds, full flat grinds, hollow grinds. A personal favorite of mine is doing the Tanto blades because it's a hollow and a flat. So it's a hollow for the main bevel, and then it goes into, on the Tanto tip, it's a flat grind. So you get the nice transition from the hollow to the flat. And yeah, it's fun. I think that's what keeps it exciting too, is being able to offer those different grind styles. And I do less hollow grinding now though, because some of the blade stock I use is thinner, and you can make that cross section in the hollow too thin, and there will be no stability there. But I on thicker blades, I love doing hollow grinds. I think a hollow grind just reflects the light in a way that a flat grind doesn't, and it's cool to see.
It's great that you can offer all that. I don't know many knife makers who offer hollow grinds.
It takes, well, it doesn't take that much more equipment or anything like that, but it's a different skill, and it just takes practice, and bouncing from a flat grind to a hollow grind sometimes isn't easy because you're kind of have the muscle memory for, say, a flat grind or hollow grind.
You're doing that all by hand?
Yeah. So it takes a while. It's easily the hardest part of making the knife, but it's the most important in my opinion, because the geometry, if you need to be able to get that edge bevel thin enough, so it's going to cut well, and when you go to sharpen it, you don't want to have a large sharpened portion of that. You want to have a nice thin sharpened edge, and at least for my knives, I like that, and I just find that they cut and perform better in that way. Yeah, it's easily the hardest part of knife making.
So it sounds like you are testing your knives a lot.
I mean, I carry them to go to the field spec. Best Tech did an amazing job at getting nice thin edges, just how I wanted it. And I try and go as thin as I can while also having edge stability. It's easier with full flat grinds to get that edge stability because you're not grinding out a cross section or anything like that. But performance is a huge thing. I think that's one of the reasons people buy custom knives, is because you're going to get a higher performing knife. You're going to get a better steel than what you'd find in a large big box store or something like that. So I think as a maker, you need to be offering that.
That's cool. Yeah, a knife. The first thing on a knife, it needs to cut. It's
yeah, exactly.
You can design
Absolutely.
all around that, but first of all, it needs to do his job. Absolutely. Is there a knife maker or a person in the knife industry you want to meet in person?
There's definitely a few makers that I look up to, and some for different reasons. Tom Krein from Krein Knives is one of those knife makers that I think he's got a very recognizable style. You talk to any other knife maker, he's kind of the king of grinding, and he has scaled his operation to be able to offer a lot of knives. And he's a knife maker I'd love to meet, and I'd love to be in his shop and apprentice for a couple of days, right, and just see how he does things and pick up different things, or not even apprentice, just shadow him for a couple of days and just pick up things, because I think I'd learn a lot. But I've always loved his work and how he's refined his style and been able to make it scalable, which is awesome. Chris Reeve Knives, I mean, is another huge. I'm a huge collector of Chris Reeve knives. Here's one that's on my desk right now.
Could you say what you have in your hand right now, just for the listeners who are not watching us?
Oh, right, yeah. So this is a small Insingo 31 from Chris Reeve Knives. Just did a what they called it was a sprint run. So they had made tandem blade shapes and Insingo blade shapes in S35EN.
So you got one. You're lucky.
So I was able to get one. Yeah. There was a localish, a couple provinces over. There was a larger knife retailer, and I was able to scoop one up, and I'm very happy with it. So I have a few different 31s right now, and I'm really happy with the changes that they've made on those. Another knife that's on my desk, if you want to get more into it, is
of course
a Herman knife, Herman Knives Sting. So this was purchased from Polish Custom Knives. Is the retailer of Herman Knives, and this might be one of the most beautiful knives that I've seen. Just the milling on the handle, the anodizing that they've done is it's very, very, very nice, and really well constructed and completely handmade, or not completely handmade, but it's a handmade knife, hand ground. But then there's also use of CNC on the handle work and things like that, which is so. This maker has blended in CNC with the handmade aspect as well, and it's very, very cool to see. So those are the couple that are on my desk right now. Aside from that, the first knife I made that I had ready to show today.
So I'm just wondering what your first folding knife will look like. So I think it could be a frame lock.
Yeah, it'll be a frame lock for sure. Yeah, I have a lot of different designs made for folders. There's a lot of inspiration that I take from how simple Chris Reeve knives are, and just the easy construction. So it'll be, I'm not saying it'll be to the quality or anything like that for my probably first 50 of them that I make in my shop, but design-wise and sort of language-wise, it'll be similar to simple lines like what you see on the EDC1, and you see on the Sabenza and things like that. So Ray Laconico is another maker that I think is doing amazing work, and his knife designs are very his own design language and very simple, and but not simple I'm not using that as a negative or anything like that. It's just he's been able to make
classical way.
Yeah, it's he's offering a lot from having a simple design, and they're uniquely his, even though they're simple designs, which is really neat. And I think the Sabenza captures that as well, and that's really what I want to go for when I come up with my own folder.
Yes. I can't wait to see it.
Hopefully this year. Hopefully I can at least prototype something this year and then figure out what to do with it next year or how I want to go about it. But I'm excited to start working on it. And the Field Spec series is actually giving me the space to do some of that as well, because I can fulfill a need that people have for the EDC1 by and then that'll give me some space to work on folders and new models and things like that, which is really neat.
So all your production knives will have the name Field Spec. The Field Spec line is your production line.
Yeah, I wanted to distinguish the handcrafted ones, the customs, from the production runs. And the Field Spec, there's been a few other companies. I believe Todd Bagg did something similar when he came out with their sort of production knives that were made outside of the bag shop. And I really liked that idea, and it was a good way of distinguishing the handmade versus the production knives. So they'll for sure have the Field Spec series and the date, or not the date, but the year on them as well.
So is there a story behind the name Field Spec?
No, not necessarily. I was thinking of different things to call the series, and I ultimately ended up on Field Spec. I think Field Duty was also part of there, but then the word duty I didn't necessarily like, and so Field Spec just seemed to work well. It worked well positioned with the logo, and it worked well. So it was an easy decision to make and easy to come up with that idea as well.
Great. I have noticed you a couple of years ago because of your knives are very popular here in Germany. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of you have a great fan base here, and friends of mine told me, "Yeah, look out for Brendon." And there was another picture I saw from you. It was your first tattoo. I noticed there's a funny story behind that.
Yeah.
What was your very first tattoo? Tell us a funny story about it.
So the first tattoo, for a long time I had wanted, to get a tattoo, but I wasn't going to get just anything. And then Jim Worth came out with his EDC coins. So the Time Flies, Death Waits coins, the Tempest Fugit and Memento Mori coins, and I just feel like the meaning behind them, and that life isn't infinite and we all have a finite amount of time, I think just is a very powerful message and something that we should always be thinking about. So I wanted to get that tattooed, and I wanted to get it in a place where I could always see it and it would always be present to me. So I ended up getting it on my hand from a local a local tattooer here, and so it was my first tattoo, really big on my hand. And then my hand for the next week or so was just swollen like a balloon, but it healed really good, and I'm very happy with it. And it's a nice reminder to always be pushing forward. And when I'm feeling lazy or feeling not motivated, it kind of kicks me in the butt sometimes, and because it's an important message. Things could end tomorrow, and I don't want to be in a situation where I have regrets for not doing things. And so I think what Jim has done with the coins and that company, and then with Giant Mouse, is very cool. And he was a big collector before he even made the coins and before he got into Giant Mouse, and it's just cool to see how he's part of that community at a deeper level now, and it's just very neat. So big supporter of him. I've many of the coins. I've owned a few different Giant Mouse knives. Actually, the first Giant Mouse knife that I owned from them was stolen out of my vehicle, unfortunately. So yeah, if anyone has like serial 147 of one of the first Giant Mouse knives, they're beautiful, beautiful. Jens Anzo and Jesper do, for the longest time, Jens was, and he still is one of my favorite designers. Just iconic designs and just, doing amazing things still, and still pushing out new designs. And I love their work.
This is an amazing story. I mean, the tattoo on your hand is your tattooer did an awesome job. The fun part was that this is a really big one, and it was a first tattoo, and it's a very obvious place. But now you are full of tattoos, so it's it's just great that you have that message, that EDC message on your hands. So.
I didn't really. I mean, my day job is like people don't have tattoos on their hands, and but that never really bothered me. I mean, if I'm gonna get looked down upon because I have something on my hand, then whatever. Like I'm not too concerned. But it's not like it's held me back. My arms are full of tattoos now. The thing that's funny is that sometimes people will see the skull on my hand and think, oh, this is a very dark thing and a very dark message, but it's not. It's actually a beautiful message. Skulls aren't necessarily a dark thing. It can represent a lot of different things. So yeah, once I explain that to people, I think they understand why I got it.
You could explain it with the Goonies. It's it's just a part from the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, great movie.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. Jesper and Jens and Jim. Yeah, it's great. It's what two of them are doing. Jesper and Jens. They are. Yeah, it's great. You're completely right, and I hope. I mean, have you ever been on the Blade Show in Atlanta? It could be.
No, I haven't. Not yet. Actually, before COVID happened a couple of years ago, I even when I was like collecting more and things like that, and I still am, but before I was making knives, I always wanted to go down to the Blade Show in Atlanta and go for a little vacation with the wife and stuff like that. And now we can bring the kids too. But with COVID happening and then the show being canceled that year, and it's not easy necessarily to travel outside of Canada. They're not making it easy. So hopefully in the future, maybe next year, I'll be able to attend that show. And I don't know if I'd exhibit, but just eventually I could see myself exhibiting. But even just to get there and be surrounded and see what other people are doing outside of just Instagram and stuff like that, I think that would be really powerful. And you can kind of check your own work against other people's work, and even bring some of your own and get makers that I could get, say, Tom Krein to look at some of my work and get critique on it. And I think that's just a really cool thing.
Yes.
So I can definitely see myself.
Right going. Place for you.
Yeah.
I see you there.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, I look very much forward to being able to attend and be there. And there's Blade Show West as well, which I don't know if that would be easier for me to get to, but I think either of those shows would be awesome to attend. I think just the experience of being at Blade Show is something that every knife nut has to sort of experience. Or so I've heard. Yeah.
You will love it.
Thank you.
Maybe this year or maybe, and hopefully next year.
Yeah.
So I have 3 or 4 last questions for you.
Sure.
The first one you have already answered is, are you a getting up early or a sleep late person? You are obviously a work late and get up early.
Yeah, I mean, having 2 kids doesn't allow you to sleep in very late. So sleeping in for me is like 8 o'clock. On the weekends, my wife and I, we take turns sleeping in, but even that is like 8:30. So, yeah, no sleeping in and staying up late. And I've been lucky that, again, I haven't been too, I don't get that tired during the day or anything like that. And if I do, I'll have a nap or something like that, a little short nap and recharge that way. But yeah, definitely up late and up early. So.
What is your most used app on your phone?
Yeah, good question. Aside from Instagram, probably, which I go on too much, like most people, I think. I use Pocket Cast a lot, so I listen to a lot of podcasts when I'm in the shop. And then similar to that, I use things like Tidal and Spotify for music.
Yeah.
So I'm always listening to things in the shop as I'm working. A lot of different podcasts that I subscribe to, and then Audible as well. So I do listen to ebooks while I'm out there, depending on what I'm doing. I'll listen to ebooks, and if I can concentrate on the book, if I'm doing something more of a mindless task, not that anything is that mindless when you're dealing with equipment and power tools and things like that, but I can listen to ebooks and concentrate on them and stuff. So yeah, audio things are kind of my most used apps aside from Instagram on my phone.
I'm sure you're listening to Tom Kreins' podcast, aren't you?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's their podcast it gives you a look inside the mentality of a maker, and they have amazing guests on. The insight from them is really good. Knife Talk is another one related to knife making that is super good. The guys there make it very fun. They answer a ton of questions, and I mean, the questions that they're answering at this point are just repeats of people asking different things and stuff like that. But the banter that they have is hilarious, and it's an awesome companion to have to listen to as I'm working in the shop. It's really cool.
I will link all of them in the show notes.
Awesome.
And what book would you recommend to a friend?
Yeah, I thought about this for a while. There's a book called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And it kind of goes through four different things, kind of gives you four different statements on how you should sort of lead your life. And they're not in depth like self-help type things, but they're just really insightful, very interesting things. Like, for example, one of them is be impeccable with your word. I think that's just a great message to live by. Don't make promises you can't keep. Don't say things that you don't mean. And just, it's a great book, and it's a short read too. And I think the audiobook is only like 3 or 4 hours too. So it's a short listen if someone were to listen to it on the audiobook, but it's also a very short read too. And just really powerful. It's a book that I actually go back to yearly and listen to just to have these things sort of in my mind. And I couldn't recommend that one enough.
This is awesome. I don't know it. I will definitely listen or read it. Awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
Thank
very
you.
Enjoyable.
And my very last question is one for the young knife makers. Is there any advice you can give young knife makers out there?
This is another really good question. I think it's easy to fall into trends and see what other people are doing, especially in the age of Instagram. And it's easy to see makers doing what they're doing and then think that you need to follow in the same sort of path. And it's make what you want. I started making small fixed blades, and that's kind of what I've continued to do. I've made larger ones, but I really enjoy making small fixed blades. And there's a lot of trends I see. I follow so many people that are doing amazing larger boy clip points and doing amazing Damascus patterns and stuff like that. And I prefer more simple things. I like carrying more simple things. So that's kind of the lane that I stick in, and don't feel like you need to jump into what someone else is doing just because they're getting popular or whatever. Find your own way and find your own path and your own design style. I think that'd be my advice. And it's hard, but
yeah, I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your time. And we will have some of your customs in our shop as well. And I'm really excited to have some of your second production run in my shop, and I'm really excited to see your folding knife as well.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to come be on this podcast, and thank you for the support as well. It seems like the field specs are doing well at this point and almost sold out, which is really cool. It's awesome. It's always, whenever I ship a knife anywhere, it's always a worry whether the people are going to like it or, so it's awesome to see the support, and it's very cool. And again, thank you for the opportunity to be on here. It was very fun.
Of course. Thank you too. I hope I will have you here back in a couple of months.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.